What's up, everybody? It's Greg with Delta, and this is the Be the Difference podcast. This podcast is all about making you a better person in your life and in your business with coaching on sales, leadership, mindset, marketing, everything under the sun when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And we bring on guest speakers. Today, I've got the honor and pleasure of welcoming Miss Clara Capano.
Yeah, you got it.
Man, I got it.
We're good. Yeah.
Oh, I always just guess it. I never like prep ahead of time. So I'm always like, and I always hope I'm gonna pronounce this one right.
No, it's Penelope. You didn't get it right.
Yeah, I know, right? So for those of you that don't know Clara is an international speaker and trainer, best-selling author and host of the Working Woman's Channel and Living Real TV. She's the founder and CHO, which is the Chief Harmony Officer of Capano Speaking and Training, and creator of the CLARATY success method. Her passion is in helping women in business work with more intention so they can put themselves back in the driver's seat of their life and create harmony between their personal and professional lives. Let Clara help you find clarity and help you create success on your terms, free from guilt, overwhelm, and burnout. I love the term harmony.
I
love that term.
Yeah, too many of us are striving for balance, and it doesn't exist.
So the example I use is balance is like, I think of like a balance beam or like a balancing act where somebody is trying to resist change of all the forces around them and resist change to stay steady, right?
Exactly.
And you can't resist change.
You can't.
It's like life in business, your family life, your business is an ebb and flow.
Yep. And that's why it's that harmony is let's try to bring it all together and see how we can, make it work. And also understanding that one size doesn't fit all when it comes to success. Everybody has a different paradigm. Everybody has different demands, and they have to start creating the foundation of what's going to work for them and honor themselves along the way.
Man, I love that. That's so good. And so a lot of people just don't understand that because I hear all the time, like, well, there's not really a balanced life. It's like, if you're trying to live a balanced life doesn't exist. Like you can't be like, oh, I'm going to spend 8 hours a day at work, 8 hours a day with my family, and like 8 hours a day sleeping. Like that's not going to produce success. It's just not.
No.
There's gonna be times.
It's more about being present. Yeah, it's more about being present. And that's one of the things I really help people, understand is that power of when you are where you are, be there.
Yes. And a lot of that comes from the non-presence comes from not pursuing your God-given like purpose, your passion, right? And like not achieving your potential and feel like having feelings of not living up to your purpose in life. Like what's the best you can do, right? And so what that does is it creates this constant comparison. And looking around. And when you're doing that, guess what? You're not present. You're constantly looking outwards. You're constantly looking around. And then you're looking back at your past and you're stuck in this past loop, looking at a future that's not even there because you're basing off of past actions, past successes or failures, and then making that assumption about something that's not here yet. Therefore, you're not living in the now. You're looking at the past and the future. Both of those don't exist anymore.
Nope. I always love to say that the past should be a place of reference, not a place of residence. And we have to start, looking at that and talking about this idea of comparisonitis, and I know that I did this too. We think we have to do things a certain way, the way that others do it. And then we get ourselves stuck in these traps of feeling the overwhelm. And then we can't meet those same standards. And then we start feeling guilty and feeling like failures. When if we just truly listen to our gut, we're generally on the right path. We're the ones that pull ourselves off and put ourselves in the wrong direction most of the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I like that. It's a point of reference, not residence. It's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Definitely. So before we started the recording, Clara and I were talking about like time. And we're in backstage and talking about that. So let's chat about that. Let's chat about this. Is a topic that I love to talk about, and the topic that you just brought up, like, let's talk about this. I was like, oh man, this is going to be great. This is going to be a good topic. So let's go and talk about it.
Yeah. So, it's so funny when I sit with people and would ask them, what is it you would like me to help you with? The number one thing they say is, and they kind of say it jokingly, well, if you could just find a way to get me more time in my day. And I'm kind of like, yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Because the reality is most people are losing 2 to 3 hours a day because they don't look at time as an investment, and
Mm,
they don't start paying attention to where they are investing their time. Because the truth is time's the great equalizer of everyone. We all have the same amount of time. And the only reason that certain people get things done and others do not is all coming back to how they look at and how they invest their time.
mm,
And so I really teach people to start to get that clarity around where do they need to be focusing and where do they really need to look at, again, leveling up in their time. And this is also where that harmony comes in. It's not about doing everything because, quite frankly, too many of us are doing too damn much as it is. It's about doing less, but doing those items at a higher level.
mm.
And so I always get people when, we talk about building a schedule, and so many people don't like the word schedule. They think it's restrictive. But especially entrepreneurs, because they're like, "Oh, I want to work for myself and I don't want anyone to tell me what to do." And the problem
That's the
is
dumbest thing I've.
yeah, the problem is we need someone to tell us what to do, because when we're in charge of it ourselves, we lose track. And so the idea is you've got to start, paying attention. And so a schedule brings you freedom.
Mm,
And we need to understand that, because the things that get scheduled get done.
mm.
And even though I work with both men and women, I primarily work with a lot of professional women, especially working moms, because that's what I am. And after having a huge breakdown and again, having everything fall apart, this is where I started bringing it all back together and starting really to look at, okay, how many hours do I truly have to invest this week? Because there are some weeks where it might be a normal 40-hour a week work week. There might be some weeks where I only have 25 hours to invest. So
Yeah.
you've got to start getting clear. It's not about the hours you have, it's about how you're using those hours.
100%. And here's the thing is that like you said a lot of interesting things I want to capitalize on. First and foremost, if you're an entrepreneur, that doesn't mean that you have less control and like you
Mhm,
just do whatever you want. It means you have to be the boss and the employee
mhm.
at the same time. So
Exactly.
that means you're like, "Oh, I want to work for myself. I don't want to have anyone control me." Dude, you're controlled by time
Mhm.
now. You're controlled by your schedule. You're controlled by you almost got to create a different entity in your mind. It's like, here's my boss, and
Mhm.
here's I'm also the employee. And if you look at yourself like as if you were paying yourself, which you are, but you're paying this employee that's not getting these things done because they're not on a schedule.
Exactly.
Wouldn't you fire that person if you were like, "This is my business"? Hell yeah,
Yeah,
you fire that person. But
exactly.
since it's us, it's just like, "Oh, I'll make an exception." You make those
We
compromises
let ourselves off the hook so much. And one
so
of the
often.
exercises I walk a lot of my people through is this evaluation exercise. Because when I was in one of my past careers, when I was in management and I had a staff of 6, I would meet with them every quarter and evaluate. Does the employee show up on time? Are they prepared? Do they know what their job is? All of these things. And the truth is if most of us went through those questions with ourselves being the employee, we would either put ourselves on probation or fire ourselves, because you're absolutely right. We are the CEO and we are still an employee, and we have to start paying attention.
Absolutely.
Mhm,
And then the other thing is that when it comes to time, like you said, it gives you freedom. The schedule gives you freedom. And what
mhm,
people don't realize is that, man, I want to friggin' like be lazy and sit in front of the TV just like the rest of everybody else. Like I'm no
mhm,
different than anyone else. But I buy myself that opportunity to relax in the evenings and do whatever I want to do
mhm.
by saying every single day, here's my task list. Here's
Right.
the things that I know I have to get done today and checking them off. Now, if it takes me 4 hours to do it, man, I got a longer day that I get to relax
Mhm.
and do whatever I want. But if it takes me more time, it doesn't matter. The time doesn't matter. It's like the tasks, right?
Right.
And that's been very effective for me.
Mhm.
And a lot of high level business entrepreneurs and CEOs that are making 9 figures plus, that's how they do it. They have, hey, these are our daily things that I got to do today. They just knock out their tasks, and it's a non-compromise, no negotiation, no exception kind of task list. They get it done, and the sooner they get it done, they get to go enjoy their time with their family or whatever.
Absolutely.
And doing it like that, like I have my scheduled time, like on
Mhm.
that, and that, by the way, that task list is aside from the normal things that pop up on a daily basis. Like someone calls me and I got to take a call because I
Right.
got to do quick coaching or whatever. Or,
Mhm.
hey, I'm recording this podcast today. That's not one of my tasks. This is just already scheduled. So I
Exactly.
got to do my task on top of
Mhm.
all the other things that are scheduled. And when you do it like that, you're going to find that you're going to get more momentum over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
So it's like putting in little tiny blocks, building your wall. Too often people have the wrong time frame of when they're going to hit success. They put the wrong expectations on
Mhm.
it, right? They're
Exactly.
like, "Oh, I got to build this wall. I got to build this business. I want to have it done. I want to be making money or making so much money within the next 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, whatever." And they go really hard, they crash, they burn out, and then they're like, "Oh, this isn't for me." Instead of saying, "I have this milestone
Mhm.
and there's no time frame on it, but I have this milestone and I'm going to work a little bit every single day towards it."
Right. Yeah. And
And
I think also going back to what you said about your tasks, this is also where we have to get clear on what is it that we need to be doing.
yeah, they have
Because
to be
the truth
prioritized.
is, we should not be doing it all. So again, I'm just like you, I have identified about the 8 things that I need to do each day as the CEO of my business. And
Mhm.
I make sure that I have those things time blocked, in doing those things because I can't do it all. And I think that's the other, fable that we tell ourselves is that, we can have it all, we can do it all. No, you have to start getting clear because if I were to go and work at a normal Fortune 500 company and I was a CEO, I would have 2 or 3 assistants working for me.
Yeah.
And we have to start looking at that idea of delegating and that it is okay to not do it all.
That was hard for me actually. I
It
used
is
to
hard.
when I first started, so by the time I'm recording this, my IMO is Delta Financial and we're at the 1 year mark, like 1 year
Nice.
anniversary. So when I first started, I was doing everything. I had my
Mhm.
hands in everything.
Sure.
And over time, I started to realize that like I have all these other people in the company, these other leaders that need to grow. I'm not duplicating myself well enough. Like I'm trying to teach and train them, but they're not actually doing the work. I'm doing it
Mhm.
for them. I'm just telling them what I'm doing. I need to start giving them some of this stuff so that they can
Right.
actually experience it. That's how they get the experience.
Yeah.
And so when I started delegating it, which honestly it was like 3 months ago, it was like
It's
3 months ago.
hard and it takes time,
Yeah.
especially when you're in the beginning stage, but you've got to open up the space to do the right things. And
Yeah.
also understanding that today is not your forever reality. It's not going to be like this. Your first couple of years is the hardest and is going to be the most demanding. And this is where, if we can bring it back to that idea of harmony, this is where that kind of comes in. So sometimes the delegation has to start on the home front before it can start on the business front. It could look at bringing in a house cleaner to do some of the items there, bringing in somebody to do some of the landscaping so that you can having groceries delivered. Because again, even though it might cost you an extra $20, what is that time?
Mhm.
Because that extra hour that I have of not going to the grocery store, if I could be on the phone generating business, that 1 hour might yield me several $1,000s. So again, starting to look at these things. And then again, if you have to do items, if you're doing laundry, listen to a podcast, and do those things. So again, you can still work on some things and again, find that harmony and bringing it all together as you're building the empire.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. Um, the other thing that we were talking about when it comes to time is the biggest lie that we all tell ourselves
Mhm.
is, "I don't have the time for that."
Mhm.
Like, "I don't have the time to do that."
Mhm.
How often do you come across that?
Oh, daily. Daily, daily, daily. And, the truth is again, time is the great equalizer.
Yeah.
When you are clear on what it is you want to accomplish and when you are clear on how you should be investing your time, there really is enough time to do it all. But
Mm,
we get lost in distractions. We get lost in doing too many of the things that we shouldn't be doing, and also we tend to have this all or nothing. And the reality is you have to also plan your downtime because you can't work 24/7. And
yeah.
this is going back to again the schedule. So planning time for downtime. so that you can have that built in to give yourself that break and that ability to step away. But then when it's work time, it's time to go to work and you need to work.
Yeah.
And, but you've got to, again, start doing these checks and balances, because time spent doing one thing is time spent not doing another. So if I sit down to watch TV, that's time not spent building the business. And again, there's a time and a place for all of it, but you've got to start really paying attention, because if you want it bad enough, you'll find the time to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely true. And you'll also be creative about your time. So the story I was telling you, and I'm going to share here is, my kids live in Florida, in Tampa, and I go visit them every month. And so I was on a flight to Tampa. It was an early morning flight. The flight took off at 6 a.m. And so when I go on a flight, I always bring books with me, and I read while I'm flying, and then I take notes. And I usually take a lot of the content that I do comes from things I'm reading, or like thoughts that I have from the reading that I take away in order to like repurpose that everything I'm learning. And so I was sitting there reading and I was taking notes, and I got up to use the bathroom, and it was like an hour in the flight. And as I was looking, and everywhere I saw somebody had people are either sleeping, which is a small percentage of people sleep because it's an early flight, but then people are in their phones and their laptops and their iPads or tablets watching TV. Everybody, just a screen watching TV, just dead to the world. And it was like, these are the same people that tell me, oh, I don't have the time to do that. And it's like, if you started to get more creative with the time that you had allotted, like the amount of work that I got done on that 2.5-hour flight was immeasurable. It was literally 2 weeks of content.
Exactly.
That I got done in a 2 hour that I'm already going to just be there anyways.
Yeah.
So why not be productive and utilize that time, which was a benefit for my business.
And that I'm the same way. And I have these agreements with myself. It's even if I'm in the car, for 10 minutes or less, listen to music, have some fun. But if I'm going to be in the car more than 10 minutes, it's making reach out calls and connection calls with people. It's listening to a podcast or a book on tape. It's, again, being purposeful and productive. Same thing on the plane. Now, if it's a late night flight after I have been speaking or training, I'll give myself permission, because I would probably be done working after 7 o'clock at night anyway. But again, if it's work hours, if I'm on the plane during work hours, I'm working because I need to be at work. Even bringing it in, last week, I had the pleasure, I was in Madrid, Spain, speaking at a conference. And then I took a little jaunt over to Paris for a few days, because why not? But at the end of the day, I still got in a little bit of time. So I would get up in the morning, and while I was having my coffee, I would get a little bit of work done before going out and enjoying my day. So again, you've just got to start really getting clear, because I still have these goals that I want to accomplish. So it's bringing it all together, but there really is enough time. And for most of us, if we were to follow somebody around for the day, and I do this all the time, where I have them track their time. And I initially ask them, how many hours do you think you're working a week? And it always starts over 45. Generally about 55 to 60 is what I generally hear. And then when I have them start tracking their time, they start realizing that they're only truly working about 25 to 30 hours a week. Because again, they lose and this is why things like Weight Watchers works, because when you have to calculate everything you put in your mouth, and when you only get 20 points for the day, and you are like, okay, these are the things that are going to go. Do I really want to eat this donut that's going to eat up half of my points?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with time. You have to start looking at this 1 hour. Where am I investing this hour? And what is the return on this investment I'm going to get?
Absolutely. And something you just said that I was like, oh, that's so good. And it just escaped me. Just because you started talking about Weight Watchers and donuts, and I was like, oh,
yeah, well, tracking
so
time, and we were talking about tracking time, and again, most people thinking that
so tracking time. So when people actually start to track their time, I'm talking like every single 15 minutes what you're doing. Man, it's such an eye-opening exercise for people to do, and as long as they do it accurately, because then it's like you can't deny the data.
Exactly.
You can't argue with it.
Hmm.
And then it's like, okay, so that's usually what I do is if I for my clients, they're like, "Oh, I don't have the time to work out every day." It's like everyone has the time to work out every day. You
Well,
know,
and then again, you have to start thinking of going back to how bad do you want it?
how bad do you
Because
want it? Yep.
it doesn't mean you have to work out for 2 hours a day.
No.
But you know what? 30 minutes, are you willing to get up 30 minutes earlier? One of the things that I have my people go through is what they call a give up list. What are you willing to give up
Mhm.
so you can make space for the right things? And again, I'm willing to give up hitting the snooze button. I'm willing to give up, watching television for more than, an hour a day. Because again, you have to start looking at these things. And if you really want this vision of your life, and I'll just talk about getting up earlier. One of the things that I started doing is studying the patterns of successful people because I believe that success leaves clues. And so I noticed a lot of people were getting up at between 5 and 5:30. Now, that did not sound too appealing to me at first, and it was harder to do. At this point in time, my son was in elementary school, and I'm also a single parent. So on those days that it was my turn to be on, we were both getting up at about 6:30, 6:45, and it was complete and utter chaos
Yeah.
because I was trying to get up. He was trying to get up. I would drop him at school. I would rush back to get on my first call, and I would always be just completely flustered. Well, I started getting up at 5 o'clock, and I could do all of these things before he got up in the morning. So when he got up, I could have breakfast with him. We could watch cartoons. We would sing in the car. We would do all these things. And I felt so much more peace in my world, which
Mhm.
allowed me to accomplish so much more. And again, it was very eye opening when I started looking at these things. So again, you've got to look at these trade offs, but there really is enough time because if you think about it, if we have 168 hours a week, if we're only working 40 hours a week, that leaves 120 hours left. Take out time for sleep. There really is enough time.
Oh
But
yeah.
you got to get clear on what you should be doing, what you should not be doing. And then you've got to have the discipline to really make it and to show up and put in the time where you need to put it in.
No. So true. So true.
Mhm.
I always think about it like this too. It's like, man, Elon Musk just put a Tesla in space. You know what I'm saying? Like he has the same 24 hours in a day that I do.
Mhm.
And everyone else says, like, if he could do that, like, there's a lot of things that we could be doing. Like,
Mhm.
even me, like, I'm always trying to look at my calendar, like, what can I shed?
Mhm.
And honestly, when it comes to as an entrepreneur, I feel that personal development is a strong piece of it because
Yep.
you really have to control yourself. You have to
Yep.
control. It's all about controlling the daily disciplines and the actions for delayed gratification for this
Mhm.
long term vision of
Right.
financial freedom, right? So when you're doing that, that takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of work on yourself in order to make sure that you're doing the right things daily, control your schedule, all these things that we're talking
Mhm.
about, right? And as myself, like I know that I even fall short of that. And I look at my schedule sometimes, I'm like, okay, so what do I need to shed? And when it comes to personal development, the best thing that you can do is basically what you said. It is a lot of people are like, well, I don't know what it is, like who I am or like what my
Mhm.
passion is or whatever. Well, the best and easiest thing to do is to start getting rid of the things that you're not.
Yep.
Start it's so, like, if you're, like, spending time with friends that don't feed you and you don't feel like, "I
Mhm.
need to go do that," and, like, this, like, is bringing so much value to my life and what I wanna accomplish,
Yeah.
then start getting rid of those things, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And as you get rid of those things, it's kinda like a sculptor that is that is chipping away at the rock and getting rid of for that piece of art that's in the center. And what's gonna happen is that who you are will come forward
Exactly.
as you get rid of these things.
You
So
do.
as you get
Yeah.
rid of these things in your schedule, the productivity will start to come out. And the
It's so
time
true. And I love that, be the sculptor of your own life, I love
yeah.
that. And, what I found for me is because I used to pride myself on telling people, "Oh, I work 14-hour days." And I used to, drive myself into the ground because I wanted to be all things to all people. And the more that I can help them and the more that I can do, they're going to know how strong I am, how smart I am, how successful. But the reality is when you try to be everywhere, you're truly nowhere. And when you try to be all things, you can't be anything.
Yeah.
And what I found is when I started putting these practices in place, when I started setting expectations and communicating the expectations of time, when I started really holding myself to my schedule, when I blocked out distractions, I actually found that I could do more in less time. And I will tell you, I work really, really hard, but I also know how to disconnect and play very hard. And, and I don't feel those levels of stress, anxiety, and burnout that I used to feel before because it's all coming back to, again, working with intentionality with my time. And when I'm intentional with my time, the focus happens, everything happens. And, working with that, also the right people start to work with you
Yeah.
and everything just starts, working in formation together.
I found that intention's a hard thing to teach to people because a lot of times people like you said like, "Oh, I work 60-hour days." Is like when you really break it down, it's like 20-hour days or
Mhm.
20-hour weeks. I'm sorry, not 60-hour days, 60-hour weeks. And a good example of this, just to break it out easily, is like I was at the gym the other day. I was at Planet Fitness, and I was looking around, and there was this kid that was on a machine that was working out, and he sat there for 4 of my sets, and he didn't do one set at all,
Mhm.
and he was in his phone.
Yeah.
And I'm like very like I have a timer. I'm like, here's
Mhm.
my time on my rest set.
Mhm.
On my rest set, I'm like doing push-ups. I'm getting up. I'm getting right into it. And I kept looking over, and I was like, he's like right beside me. And I felt compelled to go over to this kid and be like, hey, bro, I know you're probably saying think to yourself, well, I went to the gym today, but you're not doing anything. Like
Mhm.
it's a waste of your time. Like, and it wasn't that I wanted to use a machine. It was really like I felt bad for the kid because he's
Right.
probably telling himself this lie, like, oh yeah, I go to the gym every day. It's like, dude, you're going to the gym and you're sitting around. You're not getting any exercise or output in. So
Mhm.
just showing up is not even getting you to the starting line, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's how work is. Like, how often do people will be like, oh well, I've been working today, and then they have their phone right there, and every single time a ding goes off or a
Mhm.
notification, they're like in their phone, they're texting somebody, they're answering an email. Like, if I want to get focused, my phone is not with me. It's in
Absolutely.
another room
Exactly.
where I can't see it. I can't, and I'm focused.
Exactly.
I'm
And
finishing this task.
yeah, and that's where it's the difference between being busy and being productive.
Yeah.
Two very different things. And I'm the same way. I call it bubble time. Whereas I put everything, into either, 45-minute hour increments, but I'll go into my bubble and I work.
Mhm.
And again, I block out the distractions. I minimize my screens. I turn off all the, notifications and I work. Then I can take a break. But what I find is oftentimes, even if I allocate, let's say 3 hours to get something done, most of the time I get it done in about an hour and a half
Yeah.
because it's focused attention.
Yeah. And you get so much you do get into a flow state a lot better
Mhm.
when you start it, especially those things that you're like, man, like you're kind of kicking the can down the road, you're putting it off till later. 'Cause you're like, I don't want to
Mhm.
do that. But it's amazing that when you force yourself to be intentional about it, you remove all distractions and you
Mhm.
just do the work. It takes you way less time than you thought it was going to take, and you get into a flow state much quicker for those tasks. And you
Mhm.
just start like knocking it out. Like I built a website over the weekend, like 2 weekends ago, and I'd been pushing it off, pushing it off, pushing it off. 'Cause I knew it was going to take a lot of time, but it took me like 3 hours on a weekend.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
I was like, like afterwards, I was like, actually, I'm like really impressed. And so now, like everything's built out, and anything I have to add, the structure is there. It's real quick. It's really
Exactly.
quick.
And I
So
think so much of our time goes into the anticipation of
yeah,
thinking about it than actually if we just go and do it, And again, going back to the analogy of working out, so many trainers will even tell you, you could get a really great workout for 20 minutes of doing the right things
yeah,
than sitting for an hour and a half on the treadmill.
yeah,
And it's looking at these, but it's that checks and balances, and you've really got to just start asking yourself, what am I doing with my time, and again, how am I investing it? And one of the best things that I teach my people how to do, and I speak on this, is it all starts at the beginning of the week. And what I encourage people to do is before the week even starts, is to sit down with yourself as the CEO of your own business and plan your week out before it starts. Get your intentionality and your purpose of what is it you want your week to look like. Because again, when you go into it with these goals, objectives, and the vision, you have a higher chance of making that vision happen. Not that there's not going to be hiccups along the way, but you can deal with them so much better when you
Mhm.
really have that vision and you can start to place things where they need to be placed.
Well, a lot of people think that the reason why they're thinking about it for so long is because they're trying to prevent those hiccups, and that you
Mhm.
can't. You just can't.
Yeah.
Like that's
You
part of
can.
the process.
No,
You're
and
just
I have time and I call it the plan B time. I have time for plan B for when it comes up. And you can do that. And I think also a big part of it is you have got to be willing to let go of what other people think.
yeah.
I have people laugh at me and make fun of me all the time because I get up early and I go to bed early, or because I say, no, I can't do that. I don't drink on school nights because I'm like, I have to get up the next morning and I don't sleep as well. But you know what? I don't care because I am getting done what I need to get done.
Yep. And you don't need that. You don't need that
Until
person's those people's permission.
Exactly. And I think again, for early in my life in my 20s and stuff, I looked at those things and I would say, well, somebody else could do it. But now it doesn't matter what somebody else. There's other people that can go out there and they can survive on 5 or 6 hours of sleep. For me, I need 8 hours. And I know that. I love to take a nap in the middle of the day. And I'm not ashamed to say that because that's what I need to develop my success.
Yeah.
And so again, going back to you've got to really start getting clear what is it that it looks like for you and redefine what does success mean and look like for you. And you're the only one that needs to show up and do that.
One of the things that you just said that reminded me of a book I just read. I just read The Greatness Mindset by Lewis Howes. Great book, by the way.
Yeah.
Great book.
I was on his book launch team for one of his earlier books.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic book.
Mhm.
And he talks about the three fears that people have: the fear of failure, the fear of
Mhm.
success, and the fear of judgment of others. And I truly, after reading it, and he kind of alluded to it, but I think that both all of it stems from the fear of judgment. Like
Yeah.
you fear failure because you fear what others will think about that
Mhm.
failure, and you fear success because you fear what others will anticipate, or
Mhm.
the expectations that will be set by others once you have that success.
Right.
And so it really all kind of stems from the judgment of others, which I think has been amplified massively with social media and
It really has.
connectivity
Yeah.
with our cell phones.
Uh-huh.
And man, releasing that is so much freedom in that. It is like
Exactly.
freeing.
Yeah, and
You
this is
just don't
something
care.
I deal with everyone I work with, but especially those working moms, because everybody loves to tell you how to raise your kids and how to do these things, and at the end of the day, every family is different,
Yeah.
and I get ridiculed all the time for being on the road and doing these things, but you know what? My kid's good, and when I talk with him, he's like, "No, you are good at what you do, go and do it." So it doesn't matter what the other moms are doing, what the other parents are doing. I have my relationship with my son and I know it works. And
Mhm.
it doesn't matter if it works for others or it doesn't. Same thing. I have a friend and she is the breadwinner of the family, and the amount of judgment that they received. And she's like, doesn't matter. It works for us. And that's what I think, regardless of, again, who you are, what you're doing, you have to start getting clear on what is going to work for you. Because at the end of the day, it's your life.
Absolutely true.
Mhm.
Absolutely true. It's a hard thing to get over, but you know, because everyone has those people in their lives,
Okay.
friends,
Mhm.
family members,
Mhm.
parents, close ones,
Mhm.
your acquaintances, coworkers, whatever, that when you hear them say something or make a judgment, you automatically like you internalize it, but you got to realize that's just their opinion and it's not
Exactly.
yours, right?
Exactly.
And what you're doing is you're creating a prison in your mind based off of thoughts and
Mhm.
feelings of others that you're accepting as your reality.
Absolutely. Oh my God. It's so funny you say that because one of my keynote talks is called Doing Time. And that's exactly what I do is I talk about breaking free from the prisons that we have been living in by other people's standards. And
Yeah.
it all comes back to, again, you've got to create success on your terms.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Everyone's got that key to the prison in their pocket. That's right there with you. You just gotta
Yeah.
like, let yourself out, and there's
Mhm.
freedom. But our ego minds kick in so hard, and the ego mind is meant for you to survive, not to
Yep.
thrive.
Exactly.
And you've already made it through those
Mhm.
past pains, and kind of living in a mediocre life. You survived it. So your mind knows, like,
Mhm.
you can make it through that. You've already done it, right? And so it's meant to keep you in a survival state. That's why it gets scary and difficult at times. But when you get
Mhm.
used to and you create that habit of kind of challenging the status quo and doing things on your own terms,
Yeah.
it gets easier to do it and it's a lot more fulfilling.
It is. One of my very favorite quotes is from Robin Sharma. And he says, change is scary at first, it's messy in the middle, and it's glorious at the end. And I think, we take that deep breath, we step it out of our comfort zone, and then it gets uncomfortable, it gets messy. And that's where most of us retreat back. Whereas if we just push through, it's going to be beautiful on the other side. And then we'll have a whole new cycle to push through. But that's part of the journey. But, by living by your standards, your expectations, and not being afraid rather to share those with others and say, this is the expectation, because in truth, we treat people how to treat us, or we tell people how to treat us. And by putting in those, expectations, those boundaries, and saying, my time is valuable, it really sets a standard that others are going to respect your time, because if you don't respect your time, nobody else is going to respect
So true.
it.
So true.
Yeah.
So Clara, you wanted to also, you have a new book coming out.
I do. It's right up here. So it's my baby. It's coming out in July. It's called The Mother of All Success Manuals, and How to Control Your Days, Lose the Guilt, and Find the Harmony Between Work and Life. So I took my story of complete and utter burnout and breakdown and just kind of created a guidebook and a survival guide for other working moms out there. So it just walks them through not only creating their vision, but how to communicate their vision to those around them, both personally and professionally, how to put a schedule together that's going to work for them, how to, really learn how to delegate with purpose and bring that intentionality in. And again, bringing in that key piece of harmony in it, because we all have those different chapters. So it's hitting the shelves on July 25th, and if they go to my website, which is just claracapano.com, they can actually get on the wait list, and I'll keep them informed of it, and they also get to book a little clarity call with me too. So
I love that. I love that. You have two other books
I
prior to.
do. Yep.
What are your other books about?
So the first one came out in 2017, and it's called Find Your Focus, 52 Weeks of Clarity. And what I did is the idea is to use it for the entire year to keep you on point. So the idea is you would read the item for the first week and go each week, and then it has a journal entry. So it's basically a blog entry, and then you journal as to how you're going to bring that key concept into your world personally and professionally for that week and keep you on point. And then the second one is called Women Who Boss Up. And that came out during COVID. And it's a collaboration with me and 15 other women, just sort of sharing our stories and, bringing that path of empowerment to women all around the world.
I love it. Love it. And if anyone wants to learn more about you, is it the best places to check out your website?
Definitely. Yeah.
Do you have any social media content that you do, or?
Yeah, so I have my blogs on there. I have my online courses and training on there. They can look how to hire me for speaking, whether it's virtual or in-person speaking, because that's where I spend most of my time right now, is on the road and, doing both virtual summits, virtual podcasts, and then also getting on the stages to help, teach women that no matter where they're coming from, we're stronger when we come together. And then they also can get access to my podcast, which is called the Working Women's Channel.
Love it. Love it. Last question I ask all my guests is, if you have the opportunity to sit with, learn from, have a conversation with, or break bread with 3 individuals, anyone in history, alive or deceased, who are they and why?
First one, Betty White. Just
Okay.
love her.
Yeah.
I just think we can learn so much from her beauty, her sense of humor, and again, what a force she has in this world. So Betty White would definitely be one of them. Gosh, there's so many. I would love to sit down with Jerry Seinfeld. I love humor.
He's a good one. That's a really good one. He's a funny dude.
I love, I would just love to laugh, but I think again, I love his perspective on the world. And then the third one is going to be more of a personal one, and that is my grandmother. She passed away when my father was 19, so I actually never have had a chance to meet her, but I am named after her, so I would love to be able to share some time with her.
I love that. That's fantastic. I really like comedians as someone to talk to because when you look at comedy, comedy is basically like philosophy because it's like
Mhm,
it's a lens in which they view the world with a comical spin on it. But it's
mhm.
like these, and the best comedy is like these universal truths
Right.
that everybody knows, but with a comical spin on it and
Mhm.
like told in such a way that it makes you laugh. And so I like looking at comedy in terms of like almost prophetic.
Yeah, and
It-
when you get
it's-
those, good comics like a Jerry Seinfeld, they get you thinking about things, and they do change your perspective, good, bad, or indifferent.
yeah,
I think they challenge you to look at the world in a different way, and I think that it's also bringing back that concept of universal. It does bring us all together regardless of our backgrounds.
yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. That's a really good one. I like that. I like that. Well, thank you so much, Clara, for coming on the podcast and
Yeah,
sharing your experiences and your wisdom. This has been a great conversation. I've enjoyed
I
this
loved
quite
it.
a bit.
Yeah.
So, a lot of synergy between you and I, and the way we were talking to see.
I know, we could talk for hours on this. We
Yeah.
have all the time in the world to do these
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. So for y'all of you watch it, if you watch till now, then obviously you got some value. And what that means that we're going to ask you a favor. Do us a favor and go and share this content with other people that can get value from it. Other people that can restructure their schedules, that can take control of their time, and can be more effective and efficient while being focused. It means the world to both Claire and I that you share this content, and that's how we grow is by word of mouth. But it takes you only 60 seconds to rate, review, subscribe, and share. So do us a favor, go share this content. You might be able to impact another person just by you doing so. This has been the Be the Difference podcast. I'm your host, Greg Birch. Until next time, we'll see you.